should be fine. We're going to have you in the top right. Okay, are we good? Are we good? Is it starting? Okay, let's stop the video. Hey everyone! I'm doing an unannounced stream. Sorry for that. But as I'm living with many persons here, it turns out I can't stream anytime I want. So let's get this out of the way and get started. I'm just going to work on the Godot documentation for a few moments as part of Oktoberfest, Hacktoberfest, which is an event dedicated to contributing to open source projects. So the game is to create 5 pull requests to open source repository, anything. And mine are gonna go to Godot. So I've got a few projects to work on here. And a few tutorials to merge, review, merge, and then proof and like let people check that for me as a second pass. This is a standard workflow, by the way, when you are working in tutorials, writing articles for magazines and all. You always have the writer who writes the article. Well, if it's a good quality magazine or project, the writer writes the initial article, and then there's an editor who will take it and proofread it, remove mistakes, simplify the language, make sure that there are no typos, etc., and ask any questions to the writer if need be. So when we work on open source projects, we do that as well, and with the Godot docs we try to do that to get things merged, so get the writing part merged because there's a need for content, but when we have time to kind of go back through the articles and review them. And it turns out when it comes to tutorials, as a reviewer, I can tell you, going through this, like reading everything, I do read everything, but going through this and leaving comments, a review, and getting the other person to fix their things and then coming back again to re-review, adding more comments and all, it wastes everyone's time. Really, when it comes to articles, I'm not talking about code that may break other people's workflow, add bugs, etc. So the thing I've decided to do lately is to, instead, I read the article, and if it's good and overall, if it makes sense, I will merge it and do a pass myself, open the PR and link it to the author so that they can see what could be improved, how you can change the words and all that stuff. Let me pop the chat, by the way. I'm going to pop the chat out here in a new window so that way I can see it better. Yeah, the thing is, with the pull request, I'm not doing just fixes for typos, but simplifying. The thing is, not everyone has the same experience here on the docs. I've been writing for years now. And so, yeah, great. Why are you popping here, VLC? Okay, docking it on the other screen. I have another screen now, so a portable screen. And by the way, let me show you that, because this thing, okay, for streaming for people, so I live abroad now, and I'm limited in space, and I need things that I can move around. And this screen is this one's from Asus. It's not sponsored, obviously, but they have a USB-C screen portable that's super light, and that you can plug in just when you need that second screen. And it's good. It's really a lifesaver for me, because streaming is horrible. Recording tutorials became quite complicated when I got here. Gave me more work, but I've read this entire article, so as usual I'm gonna say thanks. I'm merging it now, and I'll do a proofing pass. There are a few things to fix wording wise. If you haven't already, please check the writing guidelines for future PRs. because we have some guidelines to just to make sure that we have some common rules to write clear pages, but I mean, they are hard to follow. Using the direct voice, the first rule is naturally we talk with the passive voice and we write with the passive voice, and yeah, it's a little tough. So I'll ping you when I'm done editing. I'll ping you when I'm done editing, and so you can see my changes and suggestions. Okay, let's merge that, and I'm gonna go to the docs repo. So I'm going to start with that, do one PR with that, and next I will move on to the code reference for Godot 3.1, because there are a few classes to fill up, and I'll show you how I write, which I do with this and not so much with the keyboard, with voice recognition. So Godot docs, I'm going to open Commander, okay, git pull, I think, did I call it upstream or origin? Okay, I'm gonna pull master. And we have the post-processing tutorial up. Let's open the Godot docs in Emacs, because again, I'm crazy. I became one of these guys who works into, how did he call it? Custom, you can't find it? Hold on. Okay, so go to docs, post-processing. Wait. Okay, I'll just switch to the project and we'll do from there. Hey. Go to docs. Open the last page. Hey everyone, why don't you have any page to donate? We do. So first, GDQuest is technically it's a company, it's not a non-profit, even though in practice it's in between the two, but we do have a Patreon. But the thing I tell people is just like, you can get one of our courses, you can even get one of the cheaper, there are multiple versions, it's not all, most people pick the more expensive version because they want the full thing, but you can just make a gift to a friend or something like that, and it really helps us. And there's crowdfunding campaigns, there's going to be one probably every year on GDQuest. Okay, so now let's try to find the file. It's custom post. Hold on, am I not checked out properly? Git checkout master log. I have it here, right? At simple post-processing tutorial. And which commit was it? Well, I do have the file name up there. Well, let's go to tutorials, viewports. Okay. Oops. Tutorials, viewports. Wow. How come I pulled... Okay, so if I pull a specific... Yeah, it's already up to date, but I don't have the tutorial here. Oh, I'm in doc trees, okay. Viewports. Hey, it's really weird. Hold on. Gonna go manual. Go to docs, tutorials. Come on. Tutorials, viewports, and custom post-processing. Wow. Okay, let's first add, how is it called? Set fill column to, let's say, 80. And which one was it? Toggle. How do I preview the fill? Set fill column. I would like to view the fill column. I don't remember the command. Toggle fill column indicator. Space toggle? I'd say toggle. Okay. Yes. Emacs, right. Okay. It's just gonna start proofing. Godot provides many post-processing effects out of the box, including bloom, doff, so sometimes you want sometimes you want to write your own. Sometimes you want to write your own. So there are words to banish in documentation and all things like simply, easily, and all that stuff. To do so, you have to render your scene into a viewport, and then render texture to a full screen quad. Okay, so this is a little sometimes you want to write your own custom effect. Okay. Emacs is definitely not easy to use, but it is extremely powerful and customizable at the same time. Like, it really does have, it's an investment getting into it, but the things I do every day are very efficient by now. And there are tools like org mode, which I use for everything to organize all my notes and take appointments and all, and it's synchronized with my phone. And that's, I would say, as good as using the Microsoft suite before, but it's entirely open source. Like, even if a lot of people don't necessarily like Microsoft in itself, although that's kind of changing, let's say the tools to organize your business can be particularly convenient and automated. And it's not always that easy to reproduce with a self-contained open source tool. With Emacs you can. Emacs, and I'm using an open source Android app called Orgsley. Sometimes you want to write your own custom effects. How can we put that? Sometimes you want to write your own custom effects. Here's how you can do so. Okay. In short, how do we start? In short, you have to render your scene. Thanks everyone for showing up, and thanks Brogan. Just if you have any questions or want to chat, go ahead. I have the chat on the other screen now. Okay, the main problem with this article getting started is the introduction. It was a little abrupt. So you want to ease the reader into the topic, even if they can read the title, right? You want to explain what this is about, just so that the reader who falls on the page and who's not looking for that exactly understands the context. So Godot provides lots of processing effects. You may want to write your own custom one, and we're going to see how. I think so. Processing effects, as the name suggests, post-processing effects are shaders we apply. Shaders, okay, applied to the, by the way, applied to the entire the entire screen to a frame after Godot rendered it. Okay, so it's the intro in an article is extremely important, pinpointing what you are talking about. And post-processing effect is you render a frame on the screen and you're going to apply a shader to that. And that frame, to be a bit more precise, you're not going to apply it to only a frame, but to a viewport, which is a frame into your virtual world. Our shaders apply to a frame, to a game frame after Godot rendered it. That's why it's called. That's why it's post-processing, right? You first want to render your scene into a viewport, then render the viewport to a full screen quad. Do you really do that? Technically, I'm not sure it's the only way. We've got SpaceMac Cosmic Engineer says, SpaceMac installed. People keep hyping me on the org mode, and SpaceMax looks nice. I'll take a look at Orgsley. So yes, SpaceMax is a really big time saver, right? It's this distribution of Emacs that comes with a lot of pre-configured plugins. It's all customizable, but at the same time, if you start with Emacs as a kind of editor like VI, you start with a fairly bare bones editor and you add lots of things on top of it. But it takes a lot of time to configure it and become really productive with it. If you start from zero, I think it would be great for learning purposes to really, one thing I've gained from using Emacs compared to other editors, because when you have an issue and all, you have to work like a developer to fix the issue. Use the warning messages and the crash reports, the tracebacks and all. It's really helped me better understand programming and how a complex application works and how things interlock together and might mess one another. Multiple buffers to a full screen quads. I've got to check the hold on. Okay, so docs latest. Well, I guess I'm here already, and I want to find Viewport Texture. Okay, because you're going to create a Viewport Texture, and from there mix controls, 2D and 3D elements. Yeah, so that's the thing. You don't have to render it to a full screen. Well, technically a sprite would be a full screen quad, but it's not only 3D. And you don't have to render it to a full screen quad if you don't want to either. Like, you could post-process a small part of the screen, I guess, and then render the viewports. Render the viewports inside the Viewport Texture and apply it to and render the viewport inside and show it on the screen, because you can really put it wherever you want. It's actually pretty flexible. So at the time of writing, Godot does not. Can you tell me if the music level is fine, because I can't hear any music right here. It's only for you. Godot does multiple buffers at the same time. Your post-processing doesn't have, will not have access to normals, or I guess by anything else it means, or other render passes. You only have access to the full screen color texture, to the full rendered image, to the rendered frame. Okay. So the intro is very important. You need to spend some time in there. Before we focus on the processing part, let's talk about screen reading shader. Screen reading shaders. Okay. To read from the screen texture. So before custom to create, implement. Let's talk about screen reading shaders. You know what? I'm going to start with query replace simply with nothing. Yes? Okay, there was only one. Fine. Okay. How's Japan? Japan's going pretty well. There's been typhoons, and there's one coming again. Like some other areas have been hit pretty badly. How about Visual Studio Code? Ah, shit, someone's... Hold on, sorry for the bad word, I'll be right back. I'm back. Delivery. There was a question, how about VS Code, PyCharm? Yeah, just use the editor that you like. They're all pretty good. PyCharm for Python, obviously, and VS Code for just about everything. Why no one to translate the API? It entirely depends on like contributors, individuals. Now there's the docs. Do we have translations in place for the API? I'm not sure, but anyway, you need lots of contributors to translate the manual alone. Okay. Screen UV. Fast processing can even be used. Yeah, no, I think this part we should scrap it, because if there's a tutorial on screen reading shaders, let's just tell people we're going to use screen reading shaders. So just okay. So before okay, we're going to scrap all that, most of it, and just to use to read from the screen. So if you if you're not familiar with screen reading shaders, if you're not familiar with this, please read. We recommend you should read guide first. Okay. And okay. So yes, for things like these that I use a VI, well, the evil mode in Emacs. Okay, should read these shaders tutorial first. Okay. Actually, wrapping it back to 80 characters is a little bad. So I think, where was it at the fill column Control X F. Well, not going to remember that. Okay, let's set it. Where was it? Everyone uses different settings. It's a little, let's say, 110. Let's see. 120 maybe? Yeah, but no, it's not 120, it's probably 110. Yeah, around 110. Maybe a little less, 1.8. I don't want to mess up, like, I want Git to show some of the changes to the initial author, and not because if I rewrap everything to 80, all the lines will appear like they changed. And where's the Chinese version of the API? Yeah, nowhere. There's basically translations for what translators and contributors worked on. But currently, I don't think there's a system in place right now to translate the code reference. But at the same time, I mean, you need the code reference to be fairly complete before you start to translate it, and to be fairly stable as well. And with Godot 3, it changed a lot. With Godot 3.1, there's additions again. Starting with the next version, I think it's stabilizing, but you know, first people should translate the tutorials and some of the manual, get a community who can then translate the code reference, because it's a lot of work. Like, you're not going to do it being 2 or 3%. Although in some languages, people have been crazy enough to be just a handful and, yeah, translate everything. Yeah, it's tough with people's... I wish that everyone would use the same settings on the docs. Okay, single pass, what's it about? I don't know what the title means. Single pass. Okay, I guess it's a single pass post-processing effect. Nice. Full control over the... Don't use... we have to add a rule like... We need to tell people to stop using parentheses inside their sentences. It's... I'm pretending to be annoyed. I'm not that annoyed at it. I mean, it's natural, but it means every time I've got to go back and edit these things. Rendering. To rendering using a viewport gives you full control over how the scene renders. Including how frequently renders the renders frequency, the frame rate. Right. And you can the viewport container to render 3D objects in a 2D scene. We need a viewport to render it. Okay. I think we're going to do it like that. I don't want to remove the things that people explain, but the order is always a little wonky. Often, I shouldn't say always, often a little wonky. This is just a note. It shouldn't be at the top of the paragraph. But I see, in this one, I see a lot of the benefit of, the advantage of. You don't need that. Especially not in a manual. First, you will need a viewport to render your scene to. Then we need a scene that can render the viewport. It's easier if you use a 2D scene type, with a 2D scene. 2D scene, it's easy to viewport. And display your viewport. So, please tutorial on Armory Engine. No, you'll have that on other channels. Hi from Romania. Hi. Actually, there's a Romanian friend who's going to give a hand at GD Quest soon. That's going to be pretty cool. 80 character wrap, isn't that legacy? Meaning we used it for all the screens that couldn't show more than 80 characters per line. I do not know. This is quite possible. Now it is still a recommendation in Python's PEP 8 and it's just common. I mean, to me it doesn't make a difference because regardless of the screen size and all, with VI it's easy to navigate the lines and to manipulate the sentences and all, regardless of the length. And you can change, like, I would rather have long lines wrapped automatically and just choose the width of the screen. I really don't know why people use line wrapping. I'm sure there's a technical reason, right? I just don't know. I really want an SLG game tutorial. I don't know what it's about, but I have so many tutorial requests that unless it's something really useful for everyone and not just for you, the answer will probably be no. If it's very useful for a lot of people, I just add it to the list, you know, if it can really help. But otherwise, I've just got 200 topics, like a list of 200 things to cover, roughly. This can be either 2D. You will need a viewport to render your scene to, and a scene to render. A scene to render show a scene to render your viewport on screen. Are scenes either 2D or 3D, really? I mean, scenes are just a collection of nodes, so I understand that the root can be 2D or 3D, but the root is actually always a viewport. If your scene... Okay, let's look at the viewport container. I should do that in Godot, by the way. It'll be faster. Well. Viewport container. Yeah, sure. It's okay. So this is not even a 2D node. It's a control node. Hey, Gilles. How are you doing? We have one of the big contributors. Well, fairly, how do you say? Consistent contributor to the Godot engine. The recent file system is by this bad boy. Hey, you got hired by Gamblify to do it, right? That's a pretty cool way to support the project. I like that. Actually, when I heard that they did that with you, I talked with a friend to do the same thing with Krita. Like, he can code C++ and all, and there are some features that we'd both like to see added to Krita. So I was like, yeah, we can, like, I can pay you and you add the features to the program. Just that's good. You can use a viewport container to display your viewport on the entire screen or inside another control node. I guess it's going to be ref. Another control node. Okay. Hey Jill, do you know what's the usual line wrap length on the docs? Because this guy was using a pretty large one, so 100, so over 100, I don't know how much exactly. Is it 80 characters? Any tips for new contributors? Not really where to start, what to do. I haven't used Godot that much either. So there are guides in here, depending on what you want to do. There's proofing to do, and you can find all the info in community contributing here. So you will find all the info, ways to contribute, pull request workflow, so that's a bit technical, but you typically have to use Git to contribute back, although you can edit the files from GitHub, and documentation, docs writing guidelines in particular. Docs writing guidelines is about style. And if you make a sizable contribution, you write an article or something, be sure to communicate in the issues on, like, people don't communicate enough. So one thing I would highly recommend, you know, is you always go to the repository you want to contribute to. Okay, and if you find an issue that you want to fix, you can just tell people. And if you find you want to add a new page, you create a new issue saying, I'm working on that right now. And this is quite important because there's been one case where two persons worked on the same thing at the same time. This can happen. Okay, let's use a Node 2D with a, for this demo, we'll use ref viewport container. Your node tree. Your node tab should look like this. Inside the viewport, you can have whatever you want. We'll use a field of random boxes. Okay, let's keep that for now. To take advantage of the viewport, attach a material to the viewport. Add a new material to the viewport container. Benefit of using, you already said what the benefit was, is that the viewport can be accessed easily and easily again. I've got to search for easily because it's not, well, let's do, I think I can do things that. Nope. That was a command that selected it automatically, but not this one. Okay. Okay, there was just one left. And assign a new shader resource to it. Okay, so where do we put the note to render? Okay, we can put it here. quick note saying, you know, if you use a viewport to do post-processing, you will have full control over how you render your scene, etc. Add new material. Okay. And assign new shader resource to it. You can access your rendered viewports. There's too many links to viewport, like every occurrence of the word is a link. I'll have to check if we want to do that. I don't think it's necessary. Once on the first occurrence it's enough, but I'll just do the PR like that, and if I don't forget about it, I'll ask the question. Can be accessed in the shader with... I'm going to change that. Well, I'll do it to pass. Let me go back to my note. What time is it? Oh, almost 5 already. Time's flying by. Okay, and what else do I want to do? Let me think for a moment. I don't remember. I thought about something and I just forgot about it. You can access your rendered viewports. With the built-in texture uniform. Not you, but if you do so, you will need to create your own uniform. Texture in manually. Like so. Inside the shader. Okay, so I guess this is a note as well. A long one, but now, assuming you're using a viewport container and a shader material, add a viewport container. Yeah, no, I'm just going to fix it. It makes it super hard to read. Okay, we're going to replace all occurrences of that. How do I do that? I guess G. Is there a way I can do it safely, globally? No, because there are links, so I can't. Ah, I guess if it starts with class. Okay, let's try this. We're going to find... but no, I want to keep the first one. Hold on. So I want to do that manually. Okay, we're going to do... replace this with viewport. And on the double backticks. Not this one. Yes to all. Then render the viewport inside a texture. Okay, so viewport texture and show it on the screen. Reference here is fine. Okay, so viewport container. No, wrong key. Okay. With viewport container. So I have the first one here, so bang. Error. Don't want to do this. With double backtick. So we have the first one here, so we're good. Viewport container, how about the control node? Okay, so ref control with double backtick control. Okay, not this one. Okay, that was the only occurrence. No 2D. Shader material. Yeah, different. He used different spellings for the reference, which the viewports are rendered. Viewport. Viewports. Are viewport nodes or viewport objects, I guess. Yeah. Oh. Okay. So we were at this node here. Assuming you're using a viewport. And add an shader material to the... Okay, so I had written this. Okay. Is a single pass edge detection filter. Also called a Sobel filter. That's pretty cool. A Sobel filter reads pixel from a screen, read pixel in a 9x9 grid around the current pixel and adds them together. using weights. Well, it works with a matrix, but I don't think you want to explain the Sobel filter in there. Actually, I was considering making a tutorial about this very filter on the channel. Is there anyone watching? Well, doesn't matter too much, but as long as it's running, it's fine. Yeah, there are even a few persons still watching. You're crazy. Why are you watching this stream? Okay. I've just done half of the article in about 1 hour. What makes it science that there's a lot to trim in a lot of the articles that people write, and this takes a lot of time. If you can improve the writing at the source, you actually save the editor a lot of time. Assigns weights to each pixel. -8 for the center pixel. These weights, the choice of weights is called a kernel. Yeah, the weight matrix is also called a kernel because it's a matrix, it's a grid of numbers, values. But you can use different kernels to achieve, to create edge detection, filters, edge detection outlines, and all sorts of effects. Note that about this small paragraph, there's this is a note again, but there's a tutorial coming to the channel pretty soon that's going to show you one of these kernels and one useful shader for that. Multipass pass processing. Even if you have questions about other things, don't hesitate. I wouldn't mind micro breaks from that. Is useful for effects like blur. Some effects. Hold on, if I'm rating, I've got to fire up Dragon. It's going to save a lot of time. Okay, I'm going to put you on the other screen. Come on, I put you on the other screen. Don't jump back to the main one. I'm training. I'm still very shy with that, but I'm slowly training to do like to shout like those YouTubers. Now I can't do it really, but okay. So what we're going to do some post-processing effects like blur are resource intensive, full stop. If you break them down in multiple passes, you can make them run a lot faster, full stop. New paragraph. Multipass shaders. Multipass materials means that each pass takes the result from the previous pass as an input. Virgule. Transforms it, and sends it to the next pass. and sends it. And processes it. Some past. Like blur are resource intensive. If you break them down in multiple passes, however, you can make them run a lot faster. Okay. There's Mazdam saying, hi GDQuest, so he's writing in French. I'm not writing in English, but I'm very bad. I just wanted to say you do great work, and even if I struggle with languages, I manage to follow. Keep it up. Yeah, thank you very much. Actually, I wish we could have GDQuest in multiple languages, but it's just not possible for now. If the project was to become huge, big enough so you could have people contributing translations, that'd be possible, and enough money to hire at least some people to work full staff, full time, to work on a given, language. That'd be possible, but there's so much to do. Yeah, to be. To make, okay. To make a multipass pass processing shader, you stack viewport objects. In the example above, we rendered the content. You rendered the content of into the one viewport object, into the root viewport, to the root viewport through a viewport container node. You can do the same thing for a multipass shader by rendering the content of one viewport into another, and then rendering the content, the last viewport into the root. I'm working on a game. There are so many improvements to do in the editor. That's crazy. Yeah, I mean, software and UX, there's always work to do. And at some point, yeah, so Real Sir Me Owes a Lot says, notice me. Thank you for having subbed a long time ago. And yeah, Gilles said there's lots of improvements to do in the editor. There's a lot to do in general. And Sir meows a lot. Okay. Sorry for that. Sorry for getting it wrong. At some point you've got to know when to stop investing in tools and produce the game. It's a little tough because tool development is also fun. Yeah, I know a lot of people are just watching occasionally or regularly, but don't necessarily comment or whatever. And I'm thankful for everyone, really. It's still growing slowly. I wish things would go a little faster, but that's just part of the game if you work with open source programs, I think. And if you work with open source programs that are growing slowly. Should look something. Will look something like this. Render the child viewport first, so the order matters for your shaders. Punctuation. Child viewport. Which child? If there are multiple viewports. Hold on. Let's open you here and watch the pictures. So we are looking for the bottom, the bottom viewport node first. So if the order matters, so if the order of the passes matters for your shaders, make sure that you assign the material that you want you want to apply. Well, the shader that you want to apply first to the lowest viewport container in the tree. You can also render your viewports separately without nesting them like this. You just need to use 2 viewports and to render them in the proper one after the other. Everything else from there, besides the node structure, the same, the process, the steps are the same as with the single pass processing shader. Full screen, the following piece of code to each of the viewport. In this example, the order of the the viewports of the viewport nodes does not matter. Yeah, sure, because I guess you're applying the same effect to 2 nodes. Well, the same effect twice in a row. No, it's blurring first in the X order in which you apply the shaders does not matter. Okay. First blur on the x-axis, then on the... Hey, little boy. So a few comments. I have watched your tutorials, but you didn't do anything regarding Android exports. Nope. Are you going to do that tutorial anytime? Not sure. Probably at some point, but... how do you find time, job, family while making games? You first, I think, if you try to make games and to make a living starting a business, it's going to be... You like, when you create a business, you define the limits. When you create your own projects, you define the limits. If you work efficiently and you are focused on your work, 40 hours a week is fine. I mean, some of the most productive game developers I know work 40 hours a week or less. If you take the people at Motion Tween, they make the game Dead Cells, which is really popular right now. I think the politics is to work roughly 35 hours a week for everyone in the company. They are experienced, but I think they also work very efficiently because they limit the time they work. A lot of people think that working long hours means you are more productive, but for many persons you become less productive as you try to churn more hours, and a lot of people just don't work when they say they are working. I've heard so many times, I work 70 hours a week from artists. If you work 70 hours a week, you should do Like, you should produce a lot of art, and the truth is they spend most of this time chatting online. And I do work a lot in general, and although I can get distracted from time to time, I've learned to stay focused on work over time a lot more. But as soon as I'm tired or inefficient and all, I will take the rest of the day off or whatever time I need to rest. I will prioritize friends, family, the people I want to spend time with. I will do sports, and I will just cut into work or something. So yeah, you pick how you use your time. I think the problem for most people is they have some kind of mental barrier, like they pressure themselves to make games, and there are other options instead of just trying to make a living off your games, which is very hard. Answering some meows a lot. At the same time, I've had a game company, an indie game company, and we made games that I'm not really proud of, but I've worked on quite a few games as a freelancer, some under NDA, but some pretty bad games at the time. Like, well, there's, hold on, Rabbit's Adventures that we never released. Can you find it? Construct 2. How is it? How did we call the project? It was Rabbit Adventures. Hold on. Is it? Hey, very old post. It's all broken and all, but doesn't matter. So yeah, we worked with Construct 2 at the time. Partly we did some Unity development as well, and we made games like. This one, so there are a few. At some point, we made HTML5 games, like this one, small bubble pop-like shooting game. That we made small games. Then I worked as a freelancer on a few projects. Nothing too great, so that's why I generally don't show them. And before we did these games, we had a tendency to both, with my partner, work too much on the game and on the wrong projects. We were young and we lacked the experience, so we were basically like making our own experience, professional experience. But then we turned to these cheap HTML5 games and we started making a living. And if you do your market research, you will see that you can do that. You can both gain experience and at the same time make a living. And you just push your dream project back a little bit, or you work part-time on smaller projects. You can work part-time on smaller projects that lead you towards making that system, right? But yeah, there's a lot you can do to go where you want to go and still have a healthy life. I've chosen to make GD Quest, which is a tough concept, but I've, how can I say, slowly built it up, and like I knew where I was going from this, not from the start, but how could I say? With this company, with this project, I'm doing something that I wanted to do, to find a way to make a living, or out of something that I like, and a discipline that likes, a job that likes me back. Like I can make a living, eventually a decent living, and have a balanced life. and be very close to a community, contribute to open source, do something that works with my personality. I'm not a businessman at heart. I'm really more of a like I'm slowly. You can see I've learned to do creative, more polished graphic design and all over time. But initially, I'm really the pure creative person, a guy who likes philosophy, science, nerdy things. So yeah, that's and I've made the decision to focus on it for a few years and put the rest of my life aside. So no time for relationships. I still found I kept time for friends, sports, but I've been working hard and been tired quite a few times, working long hours. But still, even putting it long hours, I always found time for friends and all. And since I came to Japan, I've done some of these 70 hours weeks. But with 70 hours, really, I still find time to cook, to see my girlfriend, to spend time with my friends, to hang out. I will just use chunks of maybe 1 hour. I try to organize some things very well in my life. So how I cook, for example, I will cook I'll prep multiple meals at the same time. There are lots of things like you can find lots of ways to optimize your time as well. Yeah, sorry, I got sidetracked. Sir Meowsalot says, if you want to, I guess, work for a game company, you need a game already made. So that's not correct. If you have experience doing tool development or marketing, or there are jobs that, like, not everyone in the game company, you need to have worked on games if you want to do working on the game, like development, game design and all. But depending on the company, you need different skills and experience. They don't expect the same things at all. You could be an illustrator and be brought into a project, a card game, for example, and you've never worked on games before. I don't get a lot of ideas for games and always wanted to make games, but my ideas just don't execute well. Well, in a game team, everyone contributes ideas about specific parts of the project, and in larger teams, well, you don't get to contribute as many ideas. Like, you don't get to influence the project as much as an indie developer, as in an indie team. But for example, if you are a pure developer and you like tool development, well, there's jobs for you. If you can write good backend code or things like these, it doesn't matter that you're not a good designer. There are designers for that. This tutorial is brought to you by our patrons. Sorry. Nobody has ever wanted to help me, and the people who do help me aren't that experienced. If they are, they usually quit. If you mean collaborating, like teaming up with people, I think that's kind of normal. It's super hard to get. I mean, very few. I do a lot of open source stuff. There are millions, like there's been millions of views on the channel. Millions, right? And I would say probably 10,000 people asked for my help over time. And in total, there's maybe 20% who ever helped me back. There are drunk people on the street shouting all around. It's pretty interesting because Japanese people are very, very calm, and there are no insults and all in the language, like not so many things. And the rare times where they keep everything inside, it builds up, and they explode at some point. because they don't communicate that much and all. And when they do, it's weird because they just say things like, he was saying urusei many times, nanten yaro, and things like, he's basically saying, it kind of means shut up in this context, but you know, there's very little variety, so they just loop over the same thing, right? In Japan, there's you don't get to see so many drunk people unless you go to the places where drunk people hang out, but people can get drunk very quickly. Okay, well done for this. Should end up with full screen blur. Okay. Yeah, there's, for more information, see Viewport's tutorial. Okay. All good, all good. So yeah, this is a good page. I'm glad this guy, what's his nickname? Clayjohn did that. Thank you, Clayjohn. Drunk at 5. Yeah, 5:20. Yeah, but the thing is, some Asians don't have that enzyme that allows them to digest alcohol. And really, if some people, if they just drink one small glass of something that's like beer or just as weak as wine, they can get drunk, but pretty badly. So that's pretty fun to see, and they'll start doing this, you know, they'll start turning around. Very common with drunk Japanese people. And so with small amounts of alcohol, they can get really drunk. Okay, so we have this. Let's build the docks. So I'm going to use Sphinx build directly here. And I want to build the current folder into the build folder. HTML, did you say I don't need to give the target, but I want tutorial, viewport, custom, class processing only. Because sometimes it tries to rebuild everything. Okay, and let's see, well, I'm going to show it on this screen. And normally I should be able to just open the file. No, it's in, okay, let's go into build. Maybe it's under HTML. Yeah, tutorials. About classes sources. Where did you build that? My friend. I really don't like Sphinx. Okay, it's tutorials straight, so. Tutorials, viewport, custom, post-processing.html. Okay, let's double check syntax. So the first thing is to quickly check the syntax. Okay, viewport container, there's 2 links. Did I not replace this one? Maybe I messed up with the syntax. Okay. Your node tab should look like this. So I'm just darting through this, and then at this point you need a fresh mind and a fresh pair of eyes to review the code. So I invite you, even when you are writing a something like an article or proofing something, don't hesitate to put it on the docs and just say, I need another pair of eyes, right? Okay, so it seems good to me. We're going to create a new branch, so git checkout. Well, I'm going to do that. Git checkout. Hold on. Yeah, I can only do it. Migrate mount. Whoa, 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 whoa. Calm down, calm down. Okay. Git checkout -b. Hold on. -b, and we want to check out to, let's call processing type proofing. Okay. Status, we want to add. Come on. No. Yeah, sure, it didn't match anything. That was my save file. Okay, let's go git commit. Gilles says that crazy. So Gilles is from the south of France, place where, well, where you drink beer like water, I guess. Actually, you know that I've reduced the amount of alcohol I take over time, and you really lose the habit, like your body becomes weaker to it again. And so now I drink really small amounts, even when I eat. Well, there's another thing, it's that, for example, hot sake or the Japanese alcohol makes you drunk really quickly, I find. Faster than wine, even though it's the same degree, more or less the same degree. Okay, so... Okay, let's just go with that for now, and I can add a comment later. Git push fork. Do you create a... Yeah, you create something for me. So let's go back to go to docs, and I should have the option. Now, do I have to go to my repository? Yeah, I have to go to my instance of the repo, and I'm going to stop the stream pretty quickly. I'm gonna go do some sports, and then go eat. Damn, you won't be able to recommend any sake. Anyway, they all taste the same. I strongly disagree. Nihonshu, so the Japanese alcohol, is actually as diverse as wine, and they taste very different, and they have great alcohols here. And I can already recommend a few local ones, because the big thing in Japan is that all around the country you will find local alcohol, and the tastes also change between the seasons. Now, really, I must say, it can sound surprising, but you barely find any of that Nihonshu in France. It's pretty rare. And if you go to imported shops, you will have a lot of cheap, like not so great options. But if you come here, it costs about as much as wine, and you have some really good ones. Okay, prove the custom at Clayjohn. Okay, let me use that. I've mostly shortened sentences, removed instances of replaced the passive voice with the direct voice in a few instances, and also made it so you only have a link to pages in the docs on the first instance of a class name, full stop. After that, I use the double backticks to make it appear as a code element. Full stop. New paragraph. You had 3 times the words easily and simply in the article, comma, and that is something you don't want to use in tutorials and in manuals in general. It's always going to be hard for someone. Thank you very much for your work. Okay. Got to get used to that. To the class's name. Times the words easily. Okay, let's use backticks here as well. And simply in the article. That's something using tutorials. It's always going to. Master, okay. Is there any articles? Goodbye, sir. Real sir meows a lot. Hero Studio says, is there any articles on how to make a classic point-and-click adventure game on Godot with conversation, inventory, etc.? There is more than that. There is a Frama book, like an open source book, on how to use Escoria Guide Godot. I don't know if it's up to date or not, but there you go. You can use that system. It's a complete framework, and you will find a complete guide here that may still be. Is it? No, it's in English. Okay, and you have an example project, and I know that Julien was porting it to Godot 3. And so I don't know about the documentation, but anyway, you have a complete system there. And with that, if there are not more questions, I'm going to close the stream. It was longer than I expected. Well, I mean, compared to if I'm just working on some docs or something, it goes pretty quickly, but if we are chatting at the same time, you know, it's distracting and all. And I'll try to stream again, because lately people are not coming as often here. So I'm definitely going to do a few more contributions for Hacktoberfest, although at the same time there's work to do on the channel and tutorials. Thank you kindly for joining. The camera is here, right? There's one more question. Isindro asks, we're going to do a 3D game with Godot and Blender. What kind of tools do you think Godot needs to compete with Unity and Unreal? I haven't used Unity in a while now, and I haven't used Unreal 4. I've just played with some of the tools in Unreal 4, but I haven't worked on a project with it. And I mean, I don't really know at this point. I haven't done a lot of 3D with Godot. I think that you should prototype your projects in 2 engines or something and pick the one that works for you. Unreal is definitely a very complex tool, and it's designed for big multiplayer games. So, like, I think a lot of indies tend to start with an engine, they follow a few tutorials, get comfortable with it, and feel like they're kind of stuck in it. And you should really try to pick the technology that works best for your project, because even if there's a bit of a learning curve at first, or switching to another engine, you could be like, it's going to take some time, we have things to learn. Sure, but if you're going to spend 2 years full-time on a project, the 1 month you invest, if it saves you 6 months in production, it's worth it, right? So I would just say in Godot, try, just try with Godot 3.1, obviously, because the compatibility with Blender, with the new exporter, is improved, and lots of tools are going to be big time savers. And then one thing Godot has for itself that's really good is the ability to create custom plugins by yourself, to create custom tools, and to run code in the editor with the tool keywords and the short GDScript language, and the ability to write low-level code but without extending the engine. And the fact that you have, like, if you are a team and you have a full-time developer who can write C++, for example, if there's anything, a bug or something on the engine side that's problematic, Unreal Engine is very complicated, so it will be hard to contribute back to it. And it's really strongly engineered. I've had some feedback on, for example, Unreal Engine doesn't give you a very clear errors when things crash. That's at least what I've heard, and it's not always stable, even if it's become more and more stable over time. But it used to be very unstable, and Unity is a black box, so there are bugs in every engine, and there are thousands of bugs in Unity, just like there are in Godot. Some very small ones, some that just have to do with the editor, some that are more problematic. But with Unity, if you have a bug and you need it fixed, you are just stuck until the next release, and you have to figure out workarounds, and it's a black box. You can't go look at the sources to see what's happening. With Godot, even I'm not a C++ programmer, but I've contributed to the code reference, and I can open the source C++ code and read it and make sense of how things are working. I've done that in the past to contribute a few patches, so to contribute to the docs a little bit. So if I can do it, if the developer or the developer you're working with takes the time, you can do it. Davide has some experience with it, so Unreal takes a lot of time to compile the project, so to make changes and restart the game, you're going to lose time with these iterations. Yeah, one thing with Godot is also, if you want to make low-level code that runs really fast, with GD Native, just code your C++ script and you compile it. Well, I say script. You just create your small library, compile it, and you can use it in the editor, and you can just recompile that one file. We're looking for maximum compatibility between Blender and an engine. There's Armory, but Godot is way better. Armory is promising. I don't know where it's at exactly. Again, not enough experience with it, but it's I would say the thing with Godot is you already have a lot of contributors, so you have big momentum. Armory is a great project, and I hope it keeps growing. It keeps going and keeps growing. But Godot is definitely, it's probably going the fastest at the moment. Every time you look at the stats, there are more and more like contributors who really stick to it. So yeah. There's also the learning resources at this point that are an advantage, definitely. Okay, time to close the stream. Gotta do a little bit of sports, and then probably gonna go eat out tonight. So, thank you kindly for having been here. I will do more streams from time to time again. The only issue here is I never know when people are here or not. So today I wanted to stream at 1 or 2 p.m. and I had to wait for someone came to get some their nails done. Yeah, one of my housemates. And no problem, but it takes 2 hours, so yeah, it took a little while. And you just never know. So, that's it. Thank you kindly for watching. Be creative, have fun, and see you in the next one. And stop the stream. The camera's here. And stop the stream. Bye-bye. Yep, I'm sure I want to